Good morning, everybody. The Goob is back on trail. Day one of the Arizona Trail. I got a little group with me starting out today. So we've got my dad. We've seen him before in a couple of shots. So far he's 4 for 4 for starting out on, or not necessarily starting out, but he's been on all the trails that I've been on so far. We got my brother Alan. He's been on the PCT with me starting out, and then one of my buddy's friend, Ren, back there. So we're all gonna do the first, it's about 1.8 miles to get down to the start of the trail itself at the Mexican border. We're currently up at Montezuma Pass, which is as far in as you can get with a vehicle. So I gotta go all the way down there, then I can officially start, and it's about another 1.8 miles to get back here, and then going north from there. So we'll get started here, get my backpack on, and I'll see you guys down trail. Some nice views here from the start of the Montezuma Pass area. That's a nice little rec area looking place. Nice parking lot, plenty of cars. Place to sign in or register. And we'll be heading down here. Getting some nice views down into the Mexican side. It's all mostly downhill, like the 1.8 miles to the start of the trail. And then it's like all uphill for 10 miles or so, getting up on top of Miller Peak. So it's gonna be a tough morning to start out for the first day on the AZT. Well, we're coming up on the start of the trail and the Mexican border. This little dirt road here is kind of the border patrol road right on the border. Looks like it's all barbed wire fencing right here in this section. And then right where the trail starts is the larger, newer border wall construction. It just kind of ended right here. But this little monument 102, I think, is the start of the trail. There's the border monument. Established by Treaty 1853. Reestablished by treaties 1882 to 89. And here we go. There's nothing like day one on a long trail. So me and Ren here at the border, he's holding the camera for me. We'll go back, catch up with my dad and Alan, officially starting the Arizona Trail. So thanks for coming along. Let's get to it. Just getting some look back into Mexico. Pushing the uphills. For all my hikes, I never really get that physically fit for these trails. So I'm starting out a little winded. I think the trail starts around 6,000 feet, 5,500, something like that. And today we're pushing all the way up over 9,000. So it's definitely a bit of a rough climb for starting a long trail. There's some colorful looking cactus. I was just thinking, being a high snow year, it might be a good season for seeing lots of flowers and cactus blooming and stuff like that. That was a border patrol observation tower here with some cameras and stuff on it, keeping an eye on the border. And we are just about back at Montezuma Pass. I can see where the parking area is. So we'll regroup, say goodbye to friends and family for a little bit, and then I'll be off by myself for the rest of the trip. And here we go. I'm ready to disappear off by my lonesome. We're gathered together again, Montezuma Pass. So Dad, thanks again for coming out, driving me up here. It's been cool hanging out, getting to see him. He's 4 for 4 for touch and foot, at least on all these trails. And Alan, Ren, thanks for coming out, hiking a little bits with me.
Peace, man.
And here we go. We'll say our final goodbyes, and we'll see you down trail. Heading out of the parking lot. Let's see, some trail signage. Yeah, 2 miles to the forestry boundary. So right now we're in the national monument land, so there's no camping for this first 4 trail mile section. So I gotta get another 2 miles down trail. Miller Peak, 5.3. The far out app says it's only 4.4 to Miller Peak though, so hopefully it's the shorter distance than the longer distance. But we got a bunch more uphill coming. Nice view of the canyon we drove up. And I can see the border wall way out in the distance. So the first waypoint for today is going to be the side trail junction up to Miller Peak. That's going to be the high point, just over 9,000 feet. That's a little over 4 miles from here. up on the other side of there somewhere. And then the terrain pretty much follows some ridges, I think, before it drops way down. So we'll get all the big climbing knocked out. And then after that, the waypoint following is going to be about 6 miles from here. Just a few miles further from Miller Peak is going to be Bathtub Spring. That's the first water source on trail. And then I'm just going to keep pushing till I definitely want to be below snow line. We should definitely see some snow today. And kind of camping down at some reasonable lower elevation. And as far as weather in general, today is supposed to be mildest temperatures with gusty winds though. Winds right now are fine, but there's definitely a winter storm coming. Tomorrow is supposed to hit us. Snow at higher elevations. Hopefully we get all through that today. And we may just see some rain tomorrow and into a little bit of the next day. And then the weather's supposed to improve. Warm and sunny. But everywhere in the state of Arizona, up above like 6,000 feet, every mountain is supposed to get more snow dumped on it. It's just been a crazy high snow year for Arizona. Something else I'll mention here real quick before I forget is I did take the rubber ends off my trekking poles, so I'm just using the normal metal tips. I found that in the short hike from the pass down to the border and back to the pass, the rubber tips on the end of the poles was just too slippery on these rocks for some reason. I thought they'd handle much better, so it was just kind of too weird, too slippy. So I took them off, gave them to my dad. And another gear thing, I'm definitely taking the Garmin GPS. I decided on bringing that with me. So there we go. There's an old closed off mine shaft area. Definitely don't want you going in there. Pretty cool. Well, I'm a little over 4 trail miles in, 6 miles total for today. It's about 10:50, I think. Time for a sit-down snack / lunch break. We've got about 2 more miles of climbing uphill until we get to the split off that'll take you up to the top of Miller Peak. And then it gets a lot more cruisy on some ridges, little ups and downs, and then a big descent down the backside. So we'll sit here for a bit, eat our fill. And something I don't think I've mentioned yet, but I did create a Goob's Adventures Facebook page. So check me out on Facebook, follow that, and you'll see more frequent live tracking updates of different pictures and things I post, information along the trail, because my videos will be on a 2-week delay. So follow me there if you want. We'll be back on trail shortly and knocking out the rest of this climb. Done with lunch. Back on trail, continuing the uphill. I ran into 2 ladies who were also through hiking, so they joined me for a bite to eat. May or may not see them down trail at all, but there's definitely some other hikers out here still. I feel like the bulk of the hiker bubble is definitely well ahead of me. Maybe 90% of the no-bow through hikers are all started already. Maybe close to getting halfway done with the trail by now or so. Little migrant stash of backpacks and things just off the side of the trail there. I'm surprised I don't see any snow up here yet. The other side of the mountain that faces Sierra Vista is completely covered in tons of snow. I'm sure I'll be stepping through it at some point today. First little bits of patchy snow on trail. I think we're about half a mile more and we'll hit the high point for the day. About a 1/4 mile left. Steep and rocky. This is a rough way to start a trail. I'm definitely winded, getting close to 9,000 feet. Made it to the junction for the Miller Peak Trail. This is the high point, just over 9,000 feet. It's cold and windy. Wind chill feels like it's into the 30s. So the goal now is just to get as far as I can. Lower elevation, the better. Definitely more snow here on the east side of the mountain. It's nothing unmanageable though. There's Sierra Vista off in the distance down there. Well, this part's been very sloped, uneven, hard to walk on. I don't even know if this is a trail actually, but this is where everybody else has been walking. Well, it might be out of the worst of the snow. The strong winds are definitely blowing out that way from the west. There's some nice tree cover here though, so as long as we're in the trees or on the east side of the ridges, we should be nice and wind protected. There's a nice shot looking back at Miller Peak, all the snow on it. Not as bad as it looks. Made it up to the bathtub spring. First water source on trail. I think we're about 8 trail miles in, 10 total for the day. A couple of spaces for tents if this was your final destination. I'm gonna keep on moving though after a nice long snack break. Get a couple more miles in and get lower in elevation. We're still 8,500 or so, somewhere in that range. Well, back on trail, done with a nice little sit-down break. I'm all loaded up on water, belly full of food. That's the last water source for the day. I think I'm gonna push another 5 miles or so. There's a place on the maps called Rattlesnake Spring, but there's no water there. And I think that'll be a good place to stop. Should be around 7,000 feet in elevation. I'm 3 miles to camp, taking another break. The wind is really whipping now. It's supposed to die down after sunset though, so it should be okay through the night. It's not too bad though, as I've been hiking. We're done with the last of the ups and downs on the ridgeline up here. Somewhere's around 8,500 feet. And it's going to be a steep descent down to about 7,000 feet, just under 2 miles to camp. Down there is Parker Lake. We'll be hiking past that at some point tomorrow. We're into the last mile before camp. Made it to camp. Here we are. Rattlesnake Spring. No water here. I'm loaded up with enough to get me through the night. Just a few miles down trail in the morning, we should be able to run into another water source. This is a nice little site. Plenty of tent pad spaces. You could put maybe 6 tents or so around here. I'm glad I made my distance goals. This is kind of the area I was pushing for. And I think that's going to do it for this first day. It's been great. The uphill getting at the start wasn't very steep, but it was just kind of a long grind. It was the altitude getting me more than anything else, just right away starting up to 9,000 feet. And then the descent coming into here was pretty steep, but should be a lot smoother for the next couple of days to get us into Patagonia, which will be the first town stop. I'm trying to go it slow. We'll see how many days it takes to get there. I was kind of planning on 3 days and a morning, but we'll see. I'm gonna get dinner going, get to video editing. So thanks for watching. We'll see you all in the morning. Good morning. Survived the first night out here. It stayed windy, super windy all night long. It was supposed to die down at like sunset, but it's only just now starting to calm down right as the sun is coming up again. And it didn't cool down as much as I thought it would. I thought the temperatures would be near freezing, but it stayed around maybe 40 degrees or so. It's not too bad. And 2 others came into the camp last night right at around sunset. Didn't see who they were because I was already tucked in and nodding off to sleep. But I got a good night rest otherwise, I think. And for today, I'm going to try to be shooting for around 15 miles or so. And it looked like water sources are going to be a little scarce today, with some small pools maybe to collect from, and then maybe some cow ponds and stuff. So that's fun dealing with that again. Here's what some of the water sources today are going to look like. Just little stagnant pools. Some of these are a little clearer looking than others. The trail this morning is still pretty cruisy. Much better than yesterday. I need to try to get as many miles as I can in the first half of the day, because today's the day that the snowstorm's supposed to swing by. It's all overcast and cool temperatures right now. I think somewhere around noon it was forecast to start raining. So I'm just going to keep moving quick as I can. I may have to stop early for the day. I feel like the temperature's dropped a little. Definitely some gloomy weather. 50-50 on whether we're actually going to get some rain. Maybe just light sprinkles at worst, hopefully. We're still making our way down this canyon. And water's been intermittent, which has been nice. These little pools are easy enough to collect from. Came out to this dirt road parking lot area. It's a neat little sign here. Still making our way. Looks like the worst of the weather is hitting up in the mountains. We may be safe. Kind of see how the day progresses. Oh, there's some views of Parker Lake. We don't get too much closer to it. We kind of stay around to the south of it, off in that direction. Out in New Mexico on the CDT, the hummingbirds are going after these little things like crazy. I've heard a few out on this trail zipping around, but I haven't actually seen one yet. But they make that distinctive little chirpy noise. Made it down to Parker Canyon. I think this is all runoff coming out of the Parker Lake area. And I think this is going to be my last water source for the day. I'm going to take a break here, fill up, and I think I'm looking at doing maybe another 6 more miles at most. Try to find a camping site. All loaded up, back on trail. Looks like about 3.5 miles of uphill, and then all downhill to camp. I still haven't taken a lunch break yet. I think it's about 11:30. I'm definitely getting to camp on the early side. That'll help me catch up on some video editing and just resting. Well, it's noon. It's time for lunch, taking a sit-down break. From here, I think we only got 4.5 miles or so to the spot that I'm aiming for. And I think we've dodged all the weather. It seems to be staying up in the mountains, and then down in the lower hills here, it's just fine. So I think we're good. The sun's trying to poke out every once in a while, but I think tomorrow, I think was still supposed to be a rainy, cloudy day, and then it'll be sunny after that. So we'll see. Back on trail after a nice break, though. Done with lunch, getting back on trail. Legs are nice and sore. It's the hardest part of a through hike, is just getting your body readjusted to it. It's all normal hiker pains, though. One thing that is troublesome is my backpack is digging into my the backside of my hip at a weird location. The other Durston backpack that I had didn't do that. This is the first time I've had this backpack out on a trail, and it's causing some soreness kind of right above my butt cheeks and my back. I need to figure out a better way to position the backpack, maybe. Hopefully that doesn't get much worse. Made it to the top of the last hill climb. We're about 2 miles to camp, all downhill now. Some tenting options up here. Yeah, the wind chill is cold. It's supposed to be hot in Arizona usually at this time of year. And we made it to camp for the night. This is the spot I was aiming for. We are just off trail. It's about 30 feet that way. There's plenty of room for a good number of tents scattered around here. But it is nice and chilly with the wind blowing. I'm gonna get settled in and hide in the tent the rest of the night. Well, I'm all nice and cozy inside the tent. For dinner, I've got Mountain House lasagna freeze-dried meal. I'll cook that up. And then doing a whole head to toe for the first 2 days on trail. I'm a little beat up. I don't exercise or do any practice hikes usually through the winter, so I kind of just jump straight on trail. Not recommended usually, but I've got the normal hiker aches and pains, shoulders a little sore, back muscles, legs and feet and stuff. The worst, I would say, is the bottoms of my feet are nice and bruised up. They're all nice and tender. The trail's been a little rocky, and as usual, I hate the rocks. And I think I'm mostly concerned about where the backpack, as I mentioned, is kind of digging into my the back of my hips. I gotta figure out the best way to carry the load there. Something different about this Durston backpack versus the one I took on the previous trails. But otherwise, I think that's about it. I've got 2 days worth of video editing to catch up on. I didn't do anything yesterday. I was just so tired getting into camp. I just went straight to bed. So I've got a little more time to work on stuff now. So I think that's about it. So thanks for watching, and we will see y'all in the next one.